Hello, Revit users. My name is Alfredo Medina. I am a licensed architect and a member of the Autodesk Expert Elite group. In this tutorial, I want to show you how to model louvers in Revit, in particular when the louver needs to have different shapes. I already covered how to model rectangular or square shapes in part 1 of this topic in another video. Let's begin. On the left, I have Revit 2024, and on the right, I have Word with my notes for this session. We will begin with a family 1, the same family 1 that I used for part 1 of this topic. It is a profile family with the section of the blade. Then we will load that family 1 into a sample project. I will open the same sample project that I used in part 1. And then from there, we will create a mullion type to represent the blade. And we will create another mullion for the frame of the louver. And we will create two curtain wall types, one that includes only blades and another one that contains only a frame. Let's begin with family 1. Since I showed this already in part 1, I am just going to open the sample project. Here, let's go to a floor plan view and let's go to an elevation view. And I am going to copy this wall from here to do the other samples. And in this wall, let's delete the rectangular louvers. So let's load this profile first. That profile is profile for louver type A. If you want to see the details of this, you may want to watch part 1. So I am going to load this profile into this project and now proceed with the next step. The next step is to create a mullion type for the frame. In our elevation, for the previous louver types that we did as windows, the frame was 1.5 by 4 inches. If you want to have the same type of frame, you need to create that mullion type first. To do that, here in the project browser, we go to Families, find curtain wall mullions. Let's see, curtain wall mullions. Open rectangular mullion. Select 1.5 by 2.5 and do duplicate and create another one called 1.5 by 4 and something like this, or you can use the word louver frame, for example. And then open with right click, open the type properties of that mullion and make the following change. Instead of the thickness being 2.5, let's change this to be 4 inches. This is the only change required. We can click on this and now we have a new mullion type. The next step is to create a mullion type for the blade using family 1, using that profile that we created for the blade of these other louvers. How do we do that? We can take any of these mullions, even the same mullion that we just did, and do right click, duplicate, and we're going to call this blade for louver type A. And then we go to the properties of the new mullion, type properties, and we need to do a couple of changes. The profile for this mullion is the profile that we just loaded, which is this one, profile for louver type A. And notice that I highlighted here that we need a rotation of that profile. Let's use that right away, 90 degrees rotation. The material is already assigned, and these dimensions don't matter anymore because we are using a profile. Let's click OK. And now we have a mullion type for the blade. So this is the idea. We are going to configure two types of curtain walls. One is going to be called louver as panel, and is going to have only a horizontal layout of blades. The automatically embed feature is going to be set to no, because this is not going to be inserted into a wall, but as a panel, either in another curtain wall type that is going to be a louver, or as a panel in a storefront or curtain wall. And the other type is going to have just a frame, no layout, and we are going to replace the panel, the only panel, with this louver. And the automatically embed option is going to be in yes, because we want this to be inserted into a masonry wall. So let's do these two types. Let's begin with louver as panel. To begin, we can copy this wall. I'm going to copy this like this, somewhere here, and maybe reduce this to be 6 feet and maybe just 6 feet tall, like this. And I am going to move this wall over here and then convert this into a default curtain wall type, the first type that says not defined, right? So now what we have is an empty curtain wall type that doesn't have frames, doesn't have anything. So we are going to convert this into the louver as panel. So the first step is to come here to edit type and duplicate that type and call it louver as panel. So as we said, the automatically embed, we want this to be no, like it is at the moment. For curtain panel, we want this to be empty, not none. Because if we say none, Revit will try to replace that with glass anyway. So we go to this list and type E and find empty. For join condition, not defined is okay. For vertical grid, we don't need vertical members, right? Because what we are trying to do is this, right? So vertical grid, none. For horizontal grid, yes, for the horizontal grid, I want to repeat at a fixed distance of 2 inches. I want to repeat a mullion. What mullion? That mullion needs to be specified here under horizontal mullions interior type. So here I changed this setting to be my blade for louver type A mullion. So in other words, I'm saying the only mullion is this, and no frames, no jambs, no verticals. So that's all that we need for this. For the type mark, you can delete the default value or type something. Let's type L01, for example, for louver 01. Let's click OK to this. And now we have the louver as panel. If we go to a section view, let's do view section, and then we go to that section. We can see that this is the mullion that we did. If the blades need to be facing the other way, you can always click here and right click and use change walls orientation, right? So that this face or this shape goes towards the exterior. Okay, so let's go back to the elevation. And now we have that louver as panel. Now I want to create another louver that is kind of the opposite. It contains only frames and no horizontals. And it uses this panel as the only curtain panel. Okay, so to do that, we can copy this to the right and do some changes to this. So this type is going to be duplicated as louver, and then instead of using a curtain panel empty, this is going to use the curtain wall louver as panel. And then automatically embed, yes, because this is the louver that will go into a masonry wall. For vertical grid, none. For horizontal grid, none. And then here we do the opposite. For interior type, none. And then for the left jamb and right jamb, we use the 1x4, 1.5x4 louver frame. Actually, I can Ctrl+C to copy that text and paste it in the other borders so that we get only borders and no interior types. For the type mark, I am just going to say L01 masonry or something, just to make it different from the other. And let's click OK. And then, of course, Revit needs to delete some things that we had before, all the previous panels. And this is the new curtain wall as louver. Because this one can embed automatically into masonry walls, this is the one that we are going to use to create the different types like this. I am going to move this new type. Let's use disjoin. Let's use not constrain. I'm going to move here. Now this one is embedded into the masonry. And then I am going to copy this, let's say 7 feet to the left. That's okay. And 7 feet to the right. If I extend this section, let's extend this section like this. And let's go to that section. You can see that this wall or this louver is already embedded into the masonry. If you see something like this, we can simply delete that last mullion. That's not a problem. So if we go to a 3D view, this is what we have. These three curtain walls as louvers are already embedded in the masonry. So we go back to the elevation, and now it's as simple as changing the profile of these walls. Let's click on this one and click on Edit Profile. Don't worry about this message. And then we create, for example, a triangle. Let's create a triangle as a polygon of 2 feet radius like this, and let's create a triangle like this, and then we delete the previous profile and click finish. Of course, Revit needs to delete some mullions. That's okay. That's okay. And now we have a triangular louver. For this one, we do Edit Profile. Let's draw a circle this time, like this, and delete the original edges, finish, delete extra mullions, and now for this one we do Edit Profile, and we can draw maybe an octagon. Let's draw an octagon like this, and then delete the original edges and click OK. Click OK. If we go to the section, this is how the louver looks. If you want to make adjustments, for example, if you want to delete one of the mullions, delete that, and now you can have louvers of any other shape. An advantage of doing louvers by this method compared to the Windows method is that you can use these panels as a replacement for any panel in a storefront or curtain wall. For example, if I go to the floor plan and I use architecture, wall architecture, and I use the storefront type, and I draw something here, and I go to the elevation again. Now, suppose that this goes up to here, and that one of the panels needs to be a louver. Then you simply use the tab key to find that panel, unpin the panel, and go here to the properties and select louver as panel. And now your storefront has a louver that, of course, adapts to the size of the panel as any other panel like this. When you see the new louvers in elevation, notice that the outside frame looks clean, like one piece around the louvers. You can see that here or here. If we don't use this two types approach, these edges of the louver would be broken in multiple little pieces, one per each row of blades. By doing this in two parts, one as a frame container and the other one as the infill panel, we get a much better appearance for the frames of the louver. Well, we have completed this topic successfully. Thank you very much for attending this session.